Welcome to the Spartan Pregame Show here live right before the Spartans take on the Siena Heights Saints, joined with head coach Jason Burianek. I'm Brad Seigan, and we've got a great game on deck for you here as the Spartans trying to get their first win of the season. Coach, last week you really excited the fans, came out to a big start, 21-6 was how that game started. You guys were on the road at Bethel, a really exciting way to get the season going. I'm sure you guys were really fired up on the sideline. Talk about kind of the excitement that brought to the first game of the season.
Well, it was great to get to start the way we did. You know, we were able to kind of have a bend but don't break defense there early on. Got a stop, and then the offense going out and scoring on that first drive early on with Isaiah King breaking a long touchdown run. That was a great way to start the game, and something that we really haven't done very much in our young history. But awesome way to start the game. We talked to them about coming out with a lot of energy, and we did that. So it was kind of a good news, bad news thing. You know, obviously we're looking at the scoreboard 21-6. I don't think anybody let up, but you know, looking at the scoreboard, we knew that there was a lot of time, a lot of game left, and we kind of missed some opportunities there throughout the second quarter and really third quarter to really stake claim to making that our football game. I think Bethel was definitely in shock early in that game of what we were doing with them offensively, some of the things we were doing defensively. So we were doing a nice job early on. We just couldn't finish in the fourth quarter. You
guys begin this year in the spread offense. Seems to be a little bit more comfortable for some of these guys. And you go with Billy Ritchie to start. And Billy looked great throughout this game. He was really exciting to watch. And he threw for 332 yards in that game. And I don't know how many long touchdown passes that you guys ended up completing. I think there were 3 total in the game. 2 were to Isaiah King. The passing game so far working right now.
Yeah, that was one of the things that we wanted to switch to the spread. This is an offense that is really taking the nation by storm, I'd say, especially over the last 5, 6, 7 years with the rise of Oregon and Cal and Baylor, some of these programs having success with it. So the high schools are doing that as well. And I think one of the things that we really had to evaluate in the offseason was with our pro-style offense, it was maybe a little bit too much for what our guys knew and understood. It was a little bit completely foreign to them when they came in. So we need to figure out a way to simplify some things for them. And obviously when kids are coming in out of high school, their offense is a spread offense. So maybe terminology might be different. There might be a few tweaks, but by and large, it's a very similar system. So they can transition into it. I thought Billy did a great job. One of the nice things with the spread, there's a lot put on the quarterback, but there's simpler reads, I would say. Some ways that he can get us into good plays just by running the play that is called, rather than having to maybe audible or get us into something. So I thought Billy did a fantastic job of managing the game, and he was awarded Spartan Player of the Week and was a member of our Victory Club, so he did a great job.
Billy looked so good in that game. It was so fun to see him just really connecting, but his consistency was so great in that game. He threw, I believe it was over 180 point passing percentage. It was really exciting to see him do that well, but he had some really great weapons around him. Isaiah King, Sean Calhoun. Talk about the way those guys played.
Well, Sean has done a fantastic job. Sean played for us last year. Lives up by Chicago. Went home during the summer. Really worked hard during the summer workouts. Checked in all the time. Came back just almost a completely different player. He's a lot stronger and faster. Really came into training camp ready to go. Isaiah King was a guy that was, when we sat in here and talked about our recruiting class that we signed in February, he was a guy that we were really excited about. He was a first-team All-Southwest Conference guy from Belleville East, tall, long, athletic wide receiver. He's got great hands. So we were really excited about signing him. I think he's going to have a great career. Obviously had a great opening game. for us, and so I think big things are going to come from them. But this will be a big test for them. You know, they've got Siena Heights has a really good secondary. They've got a guy who is a big physical safety and corner, so I'm sure that they're going to know where number 12 is, and I'm sure they're going to know where number 85 is. So we've got to have some other guys step up and make plays, but it'll be a big test for Isaiah and see how does he respond to these maybe a little bit better corner on him this week. So he does a great job in practice. He goes against guys like Eddie Calderon and Keenan Savage and you know, our starting corners and secondary guys that are pretty darn good themselves. So I think he'll answer the challenge for sure.
In that game, Malik Ross gets his first touchdown of the year. You don't often say that about a defensive end, but he gets his first of the year, picks up the ball. I believe it was Sean Geary knocked the ball loose. He rumbled all the way down. Defensively, that was the highlight, but in all honesty, a lot of low points in that game defensively. I believe Bethel scored on every drive except for one. What have you taken from that game and tried to implement in practice this week in order to prevent that from happening this week against Siena Heights?
Really just tried to drill down to these guys that a game is no different than a practice. I think the lights turned on, there was a lot of butterflies, a lot of excitement, and we were making mistakes in that game that we had never made throughout training camp. Going back to spring football, you know, simple things. You know, it really started with our alignment, and when you turn the film on, we were misaligned on a lot of the run formations that they had. There's really no excuse for it. That falls 100% on me, and I told the guys that. We've got to do a better job coaching them, and really we've got to do a better job of getting things fixed in game. We've got some really good coaches on our staff on the defensive side, but this was their first game up in the box with us as well, and you know, we just didn't do a good enough job preparing everybody to make some of those in-game adjustments. So I think we're a lot more dialed in on that now. They looked at it, and really when we sat down with the starters and really challenged them, they didn't have an answer as to why it happened other than just that they lost focus, and that's something that we've talked to them a lot about. But I think they've answered the bell very well. We'll be much more sound in the run game this week, and I think the biggest challenge is we're going to get challenged in the pass game too. So I think that these guys are ready. I mean, this is a really good defense, and that's what I told them, is that this is not indicative of who they are. And now nobody was more frustrated than me, you know, because I work very closely with the defense and call the defense and work with them every single day. So I challenged them, and they've answered the challenge so far. We just got to continue to focus on those little details. You know, it wasn't really tackling. It was just really not being in the right spot at the right time.
Let's move to this week. We've got Siena Heights coming in from Ann Arbor, a long trip for the Saints. This is a team that last year you went up there, you went down 35-7, and you came all the way back in that game. It was based on the defense and how they played in that game. This week they come in, they've already got a win under their belt against Lindenwood Belleville, kind of jumped on top of them, 17-0 early in that game. What does Siena Heights do well, and what do you put into the practice this week in order to try to stop that?
I think their strength is their defense, their back seven, their secondary, their linebackers, I think, are their strength. They've got a guy on the defensive line that is an animal. He'll really get off the ball and get after you. That's where I see their strength. On offense, they want to pass it. Now they seem to, against Belleville, show a little bit more run than what they did last year. So obviously, looking at our film, I think that they're going to come in and say, hey, we can run the football against these guys. So I think early on, especially defensively, we have to make sure that we're shutting down the run, not giving them extra yards, making them throw the ball and earn it through the air. The biggest thing that we've talked about as a team is we can't give up the big plays. You know, this is a big play offense. Offensively for us, we've got to make sure that we're consistent in moving the football. So limit the big plays, limit the field position. You know, Belleville threw 4 interceptions, gave them really good field position throughout the day. Last year, we did a similar thing. We gave up a punt return for a touchdown. We gave up a sack fumble for a touchdown. We gave up 3 50-plus yard passes for touchdowns over a freshman corner. I think we're a lot different team this year, especially out on the perimeter. We don't have freshmen out there. We've got a secondary that's pretty talented. But, you know, we just got to go in and focus on what we do. And I think if we can do that and limit their big plays, really make them earn it, and win the field position battle, then I think we've got a good opportunity here.
So last year, they started Nick Gilliam at quarterback. He's a senior this year, but number 2 on the depth chart. Lucas Barner is going to come in and make the start. Got a little bit of time late in that game once Gilliam's passing was not going so well, and MBU really had them shut down. They brought in Barner. This year, Barner's going to get the start. What do you see in that quarterback?
He's similar to what we saw against Bethel in that he is an athletic quarterback. I think Gilliam is more of a pocket passer. Barner is a pocket passer as well, but one thing that we noticed that on third down, he's looking to scramble, especially if he has that opening, especially if it's like a 3rd and 7, 3rd or 8. If he has that opportunity, he's going to be a quick scrambler. So that's very similar to what we saw with Kerry Sellers with Bethel. We've really emphasized keeping that guy in the pocket, really emphasized that we've got to finish the plays, and the defensive line has to maintain rush lanes, which was something we didn't do very well against Bethel, and that was a guy that we knew was a scrambler. So we've got to have a little bit more athletic defensive linemen on the field, especially in certain situations, so that they can run and chase down a quarterback. Got to maintain rush lanes, and then we're going to have a guy that's kind of spying him at times, and obviously always knowing where he's at. But there's really not much that we need to do differently against him. He's maybe not the tallest quarterback, so I think if we're able to maintain rush lanes, keep our hands up, we might be able to tip some balls or force balls to float through the air. One thing I think Belleville showed was that when they did that there were some times where he didn't get his feet set, maybe his release wasn't quite what you would normally see, and you saw the ball float in the air and be an incompletion. So if we can do some of that, I think again, we've got a good opportunity to corral him and keep him in the pocket.
You were talking about getting your hands up and having good hands on the defensive line is such an important part of the game. And speaking of that, Oscar Madrigal cracks the 2 deep this week. He is number 2 over at defensive end. This is a guy you've been really excited about. He's finally medically cleared. I think you're really excited to get him into this game.
Yeah, absolutely. Oscar, comes in very highly recruited and had a lot of people after him. We were able to get him here. We really haven't seen what he can do until this past week and a half, because he was sidelined with a few medical questions that we had to dive into and check out. Everything checked out clear, so he's ready to go. He's been chomping at the bit to get out there practicing with these guys, which he's been able to do over the last week. But he is going to be a force in there. He's not the biggest guy, but he's very strong and he's very athletic. His motor is constantly running. So that's another guy on our defensive line that can be added to, like a Michael Luna or Malik Ross and Christian Perez, Dominic Aguirre, some of these Simi Skips. So it'll be good to have Oscar in the lineup.
Coach, good luck today.
Thanks.
That's Coach Jason Buryanek. We're glad you're here with us. Coming up next, Harry Schrader and Kevin Pulse will have the call for you live from CBC. We'll be back in just a minute on the Spartan Digital Network.